Tourism Pathshala. It will transform your dream into reality.
Good morning, my dear student. Today we are going to understand the cost of capital. Cost of capital. The cost of capital is a section of the capital structure. In my previous class, I have already discussed the topic of capital structure, concept, classification of capital structure. Capital structure basically works in the debt fund, equity fund, and debt fund. The long-term equity fund and long-term debt fund. Equity means the owner capital, debt is the borrowed fund. Different classification of capital structure we have already discussed and studied. Simple classification, complex classification, classification based on internal capital, external capital, classification based on ownership, owner's capital or debt capital. And what is the significance, purpose or important features of capital structure already we have learned. The profitability, main purpose of the capital structure, profitability, flexibility, solvency. What are the important features of capital structure? The important features of capital structure, also the important area, the financial lever under the section we have to study, the important factors of capital structure. Number one, financial leverage. Number two, operating leverage, EBIT, case analysis, cost of capital, and growth, cash flow analysis, flexibility. Today we are going to understand the cost of capital, and before that also you have to clear the idea the capital structure, difference between the capital structure and financial structure. That is also discussed in my previous video. The definition, you have to follow my lecture of financial management series. You will get everything. Capital structure, in brief, the capital structure basically based on debt and equity, and financial structure based on total debt and equity. Total debt means long-term debt and short-term debt. Main scope of capital structure is a narrow, long-term fund, but financial structure, borrowed fund, long-term fund and short-term. Main component of capital structure, long-term debt, equity and retained earnings. But in the case of financial structure, we have to remember the current liability. Current liability, all capital structure component plus current liability. What is the main purpose of capital structure? Analyze the long-term solvency and capital optimization. What is the main function of financial structure? Reflect the company's total liquidity and financial strategy. Already I have discussed this area in detail. The financial structure important component, capital structure, debt, equity and working capital. And importance of financial structure, the risk management and cost of capital. Today's our objective to learn the cost of capital. So my dear student, you follow this video, follow my lecture series, you will get the clear conception of the financial management and it will be effective for your solving the question. Now we are going to understand the cost of capital. Before discussing the cost of capital, there is important information for the students who have decided to appear in NATE in January coming June 2026 session. We have 3 months, April, May, June. Students who have decided to appear in this exam, you may contact with me if you want to get the private guidance, private teaching, and to get the previous year question answer solved, PDF note, and lecture series. You may contact with me through my WhatsApp number. My WhatsApp number has given 9126718149. So, my dear student, now we are going to understand the cost of capital. The cost of capital. So, what is the cost of capital? The cost of capital is the minimum return. Minimum return a company must earn on investment to satisfy lender or investor. We need the minimum return. So, minimum return is the very important aspect. Next important thing, it represents cost of using debt and equity fund. In the case of cost of capital under the section of the capital structure. In my previous video, I discussed about the capital structure, the very, very important topic of the capital structure. Under the section of capital structure, the important area, the cost of capital. Where the capital structure main aspect of capital structure is debt fund, and equity fund. Work the debt and equity. In the case of cost of capital, using the debt fund and equity fund, cost of using debt and equity fund. Often, how calculate the cost of capital? In the case of the calculation of cost of capital, generally use the weighted average cost of WACC. Now the question is, what are the key components? What are the key components of cost of capital? The key component of cost of capital is the cost of debt, is identified by RT. Next, the effective rate of company paid on borrowed fund usually adjusted for taxes. The formula is RT into 1 minus tax rate. That is for the RT. Key component number 1, cost of debt. Second, cost of equity. Cost of equity is the return required by shareholder, often calculated using the cost of equity by CAPM, Capital Asset Pricing Model. Capital Asset Pricing Model, the full form, the CAPM is the abbreviation. Remember, it is used the cost of equity and cost of debt calculation RD, cost of equity calculation CAPM. Now, next important area, the weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital calculation formula is WACC is equal to E by B into RE, E by E RE plus B by B RT minus 1 by T. E means market value of the equity, D means market value of the debt, B means total value E plus D, and T means corporate tax. These are the formula of weighted average cost of capital. Very, very important topic of our native share exam under the section of Unit 10, the financial management. Financial management under the section of financial management. Three important area: capital value, cost of capital, important three area under the section of capital structure. Number 1, capital structure, cost of capital, and leverage. In my next video, I will discuss about the leverage. Now, important area, what is the significance or importance of cost of capital? What is the importance of cost of capital? The investment decision. Investment decision making will help to determine if the project will generate enough return. That is our most important issues. The return after investment, each and every organization wants to get the return. Cost of capital help us to take the decision the project will generate enough return or not. Next, capital structure. And I have told you in the section of capital structure, it will guide the company in determine the optimal mix of debt and equity. Debt and equity is the important component of our capital structure. So this is the important area of cost of capital. My dear student, you keep touch with my channel and step by step you can understand each and every area. It is not necessary to go anywhere. If you follow me, you will clear your conception and it is effective to solve your question and after you to change your approach. Thank you.